The future of humanity has never looked as interesting as it does today. 30 years ago, if you told someone that a pocket-sized device would give every human being on Earth access to nearly all recorded human knowledge, most people would have called that science fiction. Today, we take our smartphones for granted. We are bad at imagining the future, not because we lack imagination, but because we tend to imagine it as a slightly upgraded version of the present. But the future that the current trajectory of technology points toward is not a polished upgrade. It's a phased transition, as different from today as today is from the medieval world. In this video, I want to walk through what that transition might actually look like, and more importantly, what life on the other side of it might mean for you. The singularity refers to the point at which artificial intelligence can perform any cognitive task that a human can, and then rapidly, recursively improve itself beyond that point. Crossing that threshold changes everything downstream. The reason intuition breaks here is compounding. When something improves linearly, we can picture it. When it compounds, when progress accelerates progress, the numbers become almost meaningless to the human mind. Soon we will have robots that can construct their own factories. If we start with 1,000 of them, and they double in population every week, then after just 6 months, there are more robots than there are humans on Earth. And not long after, there are hundreds of robots per human. These robots would not just fold laundry and make coffee, though they would do that too. Think about what an effectively unlimited, perfectly coordinated, tireless labor force could accomplish. Cities rebuilt from the ground up in years instead of decades. Clean energy infrastructure rolled out across entire continents. Disease research that used to take human researchers 30 years, compressed into months. The constraint on human civilization has always been, at its core, the number of productive hours available. Remove that constraint, and the speed of progress becomes hard to even describe. So, when does this actually happen? The most honest answer is, sooner than most people think. The best way to estimate the timeline is to look at the pace of progress over the last few years and extrapolate. 3.5 years ago, the first version of ChatGPT launched. It was genuinely impressive. It was also frequently, confidently wrong. It could handle high school math on a good day, and fumbled basic logical puzzles on a bad one. Today's frontier models are not a modest improvement on that. They are a different category of system. The most capable AI model from Anthropic recently identified previously unknown security vulnerabilities across all major operating systems and browsers. OpenAI's most advanced model solved a mathematical problem that had been open for 80 years, something that elite human mathematicians had not been able to crack. These are not incremental gains. These are qualitative leaps. Now, you will still find videos online of AI chatbots failing at simple tasks. Someone asks a free model to count the letter R in a word, and it gets it wrong. This gets shared widely, and it shapes people's mental model of AI. But those videos almost always use free versions of chatbots that are far behind the cutting edge. Judging modern AI capability by a free chatbot is like test driving a Ford Model T and concluding you understand what a modern car can do. That said, real limitations exist. Current AI systems are trained primarily on text, which means they lack some of the intuitive physical understanding that comes from actually navigating and interacting with the world. Moreover, the training data has gaps, and AI still sometimes fails at generalizing in the way a human does. But there are solutions to these limitations. By having the AI learn not just from seeing examples, but from attempting solutions and evaluating the results, they will get smarter and smarter over time. My own estimate, extrapolating from current trends conservatively, puts the arrival of transformative general AI capability somewhere between 2030 and 2036. Some credible researchers say as early as 2027. The honest range is wide, but the direction is not seriously in question. So what does life actually look like after the singularity? This is where the conversation usually gets either utopian or dystopian in a cartoonish way. I want to try for something more grounded. The most immediate and disruptive consequence is economic. When machines can perform most cognitive and physical tasks better than humans, most jobs as they exist today disappear. Not some jobs, most jobs. The workers most likely to remain employed are those in roles where the customer specifically values the human presence. A dancer, a massage therapist, a hairdresser, people who, in some sense, are the product. These roles will still exist, but they represent a small fraction of current employment. This is not inherently catastrophic, but it requires deliberate political choices that are not currently being made with any urgency. Society will need robust systems to redistribute the enormous wealth generated by AI, because that wealth will be generated in staggering quantities. If the gains flow only to the owners of AI infrastructure, we get a type of tech feudalism. If we design intelligent redistribution mechanisms, something like a universal stake in the AI economy, we get something that could be extraordinarily good. The technology does not determine which outcome we get. Policy does. Assuming we navigate that transition reasonably well, what does daily life look like? The first thing to understand is that liberated time does not automatically mean meaningful time. When work disappears as a structuring force in people's lives, the question of how to live well becomes much more pressing. Human beings are social, purposeful creatures. We need things to do that feel worth doing. The upside is that, for the first time in history, billions of people will have the actual freedom to figure out what that means for them, not constrained by economic necessity. The physical world will change dramatically. One of the more interesting predictions for how AI and robotics reshape cities is that transportation infrastructure moves underground. Imagine dense networks of automated underground transit handling the movement of people and goods, freeing the surface of cities from the dominance of vehicles. Streets become walkable, parks expand. Cities that currently feel hostile to pedestrians, which is most of them, get rebuilt with human experience as the primary design goal. The physical urban environment becomes cleaner, quieter, and more livable than at any point in modern history. The virtual world undergoes an equally dramatic transformation. Today's games and digital environments are impressive, but bounded. There are seams, places where the illusion breaks, where the world runs out of content, where NPCs give themselves away as scripts rather than people. Post-singularity virtual worlds will likely be genuinely limitless. The characters you encounter will converse, react, remember, and surprise you in ways indistinguishable from interactions with real people. The worlds themselves will generate new content faster than any player could exhaust it. The interface for these worlds will also evolve. VR hardware is still awkward and isolating, but the trajectory of miniaturization and sensory integration points towards something much more seamless. Systems that engage not just sight and sound, but movement and physical feedback. Playing a game might mean actually walking, running, and fighting. The physical demands of immersive gaming could become a genuine form of exercise, not as a gimmick, but as the natural consequence of full-body interaction. People may find themselves in remarkable physical condition without ever thinking of what they're doing as a workout. None of this is guaranteed. The technology is coming. The trajectory on that is clear. But the shape of the world it creates depends on decisions that are being made, or not made right now. The singularity is not an event that happens to us. It is a process we are already inside. The question is not whether AI will transform society. The question is whether the institutions, policies, and values we build around it will distribute that transformation in a way that expands human dignity and freedom, or concentrate it in the hands of a very small number of people. Getting that right is the most important design challenge in human history, and it is happening faster than most people realize.